Hello friends, today we are going to learn about software as a service in cloud computing service models. We are going to learn about its advantages, disadvantages, architecture, etc. Software as a service. Software as a service is the model in which an application is hosted as a service to the customers who access it via the internet. That means those applications which we access via internet comes in software as a service, or we access it with the help of software as a service like the Google search engine, like Gmail, Google Drive, Google Docs. These all are accessed via software as a service. When the software is hosted off-site, the customer does not know or does not have to maintain it or support it. On the other hand, it is out of customer's hand when the hosting service decides to change it. The idea is that you use the software out of the box as is and do not need to make a lot of changes or require integration to other sources or systems. The provider does all the patching and upgrades as well as keeping the infrastructure running. Cost can be sort of a double-edged sword. On the other hand, cost for accessing the software can be an ongoing thing. Rather than pay for it once and be done with it, the more you use it, the more you will be billed. It is just like in electricity. The more we consume the electricity, the more is the bill generated. In a similar way, the more we use the services, the more we are billed. On the other hand, in some cases, you don't have to pay as much upfront, and you are only billed based on your use for the application or use of the application. For vendors, software as a service has the appeal of providing stronger protection of their intellectual property as well as creating continuous stream of income. There are many types of softwares that lend themselves to software as a service model. Typically, software that performs a simple task without much need to interact with other systems makes them ideal candidates for software as a service. Customers who do not incline to perform software development but have need of high powered applications can also benefit from software as a service. Some of these applications include, first one is the customer resource management or customer relationship management. Second one is video conferencing. Another one is IT service management, accounting. The next one is web analytics, and the other one is web content management. Software applications differ from earlier distributed computing solutions in that software as a service was developed specifically to use web tools like the browsers. This makes them web native. That means these services are native to the internet, or we can say the web. It was also built with the multi-tenant backend in the mind. What is multi-tenant? That means simultaneously multiple users can access that particular system, which enables multiple customers to use a particular application. For example, if I am using Google search engine, then I am not the only user who are using it, or I am not the only client who is accessing that particular search engine. At the same time, that for that particular application or that particular, for example, if I am searching for something, so there can be multiple users who are also on that particular search engine searching for that same thing. SaaS provides network-based access to commercially available software. Since software is managed at a central location, customers can access their applications wherever they have the web access. Software as a service is often used in conjunction with other software. When used as a component of another application, this is known as a mashup or a plugin. Software as a service distribution model in which applications are hosted by a cloud service provider and made available to customers over internet. Software as a service is also known as on-demand software. In software as a service, software and associated data are centrally hosted on the cloud server. Software as a service is accessed by users using a thin client via a web browser. Software as a service is a model for the distribution of softwares where customers access software over the internet. In software as a service provider hosts the application at its data center and a customer accesses it via a standard web browser. Software as a service or SaaS is a way of delivering applications over the internet as a service. Instead of installing and maintaining software, you simply access it via the internet. Say, for example, we use Google Docs. Now, instead of installing Microsoft Word, we can go over the internet and use Google Docs and work over there, freeing yourself from the complex software and hardware management. Another point is software as a service applications are sometimes called web based software, on demand software, or hosted software. Whatever the name, software as a service applications run on a software provider servers. The provider manages access to the application, including security, availability, and performance. There are a few major characteristics that apply to most SaaS vendors. First one is updates are applied automatically without customer intervention. Second one is the service is purchased on a subscription basis. Next, third one, no hardware is required to be installed by the customer who is using it. Then, software as a service is also known as hostware software or on-demand software. Software as a service is the natural evolution of software. The old model of getting physical DVDs and installing on the local servers was the only realistic solution for many years. In fact, the client server model is still required for many scenarios. That said, in recent years, a number of developments have allowed software as a service to become mainstream. One factor is bandwidth. The internet is simply faster than it was a decade ago. Other major factors include the evolution of both virtualizations and tools in big data. All these advances have made it much easier for providers to scale and manage their own infrastructure and thus provide software as a service solutions. Software as a service is used in a number of common business areas, including customer relationship management, as we have seen before, document management, accounting, human resource management, service desk management, content management, and collaboration. There are literally thousands of SaaS vendors, SaaS is software as a service vendors, but Salesforce.com is perhaps the best known example, as it is one of the first vendors to significantly disrupt the traditional software vertical. Software as a service is closely related to platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. It falls under the umbrella of the large category of cloud computing, although many people view the terms as synonymous. Software as a service is a software licensing model in which access to the software is provided on a subscription basis, with the software being located on external servers rather than on servers located in-house. Software as a service is typically accessed through a web browser, with users logging into the system using a username and password. Say, for example, if I am accessing a Gmail account, I have that username and password, and I am accessing software as a service of Google. Though it is open source, instead of each user having to install software on their computer, the user is able to access program via the internet. Business commonly use software as a service in customer retention management, human resources, and procurement. Technology companies, financial service companies, and utilities have led the business world in adopting software as a service technology. Financial service companies, say for example Google Pay, or I could say the banks which are using the mobile application these days, they are the example of these services. Another one is the utilities. For example, the utility, for utility services we use some of the applications. It is considered an example element of endogenous growth theory. Now, understanding what is software as a service. The rise of software as a service coincides with the rise of cloud-based computing. Before software as a service was available, companies looking to update the software on their computers had to purchase compact discs containing the updates. For large organizations, updating software was a time-consuming endeavor. Over time, software updates become available for download through the internet, with companies purchasing additional licenses rather than additional disks. However, this still requires a copy of the software to be installed on all the devices that needed access to it. Say for example, if I'm accessing WhatsApp or Facebook, I need to install a copy of that particular application which needed to be accessed. Not that particular application. Everything is not on my phone or my personal digital assistants, or say laptops or tablets. But still, I need to install a copy of it. Some of the characteristics of software as a services are: it is a good way to understand that SaaS model, or software as a service model, is by thinking of a bank which protects the privacy of each customer while providing services that is reliable and secure on a massive scale. A bank's customer all use the same financial systems and technology without worrying about anyone accessing their personal information without authorization. The key characteristics of the software as a service models are: first is multi-tenant architecture. What is multi-tenancy or multi-tenant architecture? A multi-tenant architecture in which all users and applications share a single common infrastructure and code base that is centrally maintained. That means if I am accessing a particular application, with me there are simultaneously many users who are accessing it, so they can access that single common infrastructure and code base that is centrally maintained, which is not bifurcated to other situations or locations, but it is centrally maintained but accessed by the multiple users there. Because SaaS vendor clients are all on the same infrastructure and code base, vendors can innovate more quickly and save the valuable development time previously spent on maintaining numerous versions of outdated code. Second point is easy customization. The ability for each user to easily customize applications to fit their business processes without affecting the common infrastructure. Because of the way software as a service is architected, These customizations are unique to each company or user and are always preserved through upgrades. That means software as a service providers can make upgrades more often with less customer risk and much lower adoption cost. Next point is better access. Improved access to data from any network device while making it easier to manage privileges, monitor data use, and ensure everyone sees the same information at the same time. Next is software as a service harness the consumer web. Anyone familiar with Amazon.com or My Yahoo will be familiar with the web interface of typical software as a service application. With the software as a service model, you can customize with the point and click ease, making the weeks or months it takes to update traditional business software seem hopelessly old-fashioned. Next is software as a service trends. Organizations are now developing software as a service integration platforms, or I could say SIPs, for building additional software as a service applications. The consulting firm calls this third wave in software adoption, when software as a service moves beyond stand-alone software functionality to become a platform for mission critical applications. Advantages of software as a service. First point is accessibility. One strong advantage of software as a service application is the ability to run through an internet browser, so it does not matter which operating system is used to access it. That means it provides us the platform independency, which is the basic characteristics of cloud computing. So, regardless as to whether the user is trying to run the application on Windows, Mac OS, Linux machines, or even smartphones running Android or iOS, the application still remains accessible. This makes software as a service applications incredibly versatile in a couple of different ways. For one, it means you do not need to worry if your operating system or other software will be compatible with a software as a service application. Next is, perhaps more importantly, not only can they be used in office on desktop computers, they can also be used on mobile devices such as laptops and tablets. Software as a service applications are overwhelmingly designed to mobile friendly so that they can be used in a whole range of situations and circumstances, not least on the go. Next, advantages, updates and patches. Another key advantage of software as a service application is that because they run in the cloud, the vendor can update their software centrally without adversely affecting business operations for users. This is in stark contrast to on-premise software that will often require a degree of compatibility and endpoint security testing before even routine updates and patches can be applied. The software as a service model therefore avoid the pitfalls of testing that slows down the development cycle and access new features for users while ensuring that security updates are applied as soon as possible, in contrast to on-premise software that may remain vulnerable to attack until the IT service management staff have finished their testing. Next point is hardware. This leads to one of the other biggest selling points about software as a service, and that is the lack of initial investment required to use it. For on-premise software, sometimes it is not simply that business PCs or Other desktops have compatible software and hardware configurations, but also that additional servers and network switches that could be required as part of a general investment in IT infrastructure services necessary to support the software across the business. Software as a service sweeps that need away, meaning that even the smallest business can now have access to software tools through SaaS based cloud applications that originally only enterprises could afford to build for. Additionally, software as a service is scalable in that if you need to add more users to your service or conversely reduce them, you simply adjust your billing plan accordingly as opposed to having to buy in more hardware when expanding or else having to shelve expensive electronics when reduced needs makes it redundant. Next point is market reach. For vendors, this means being able to supply a software service to majority of the market instead of just a limited and targeted market segment. This also means that pricing can be cheaper and more accessible for business of every size. For users, this means being able to access services not normally available, thus both expanding and improving business services, productivity, and general opportunities. Next point is saving and storage. On-premise storage of data means that the need to invest in reliable backups such as through online cloud storage or disaster recovery plan to mitigate any serious hardware crash that might otherwise cause the significant loss of data. However, with software as a service, data is routinely saved in the cloud anyway. What makes this double advantageous is not just the redundancy aspect, but also that employees can switch between devices without losing work or data simply by the fact of logging into the single account, regardless of which device is being used. Data and analytics. Because everything is run through a centralized platform, this means it is easy to capture data and provide it for analytics use. Businesses using SaaS software, that is, software as a service software, usually have access to reporting and intelligence tools and visualizations that can provide valuable insights into business operations, allowing for workflows to be streamlined and efficiency savings to be actioned. For the vendor, because access depends on a paid subscription, there is no need to be concerned about piracy, which might otherwise cost the supplier and damage both access and pricing models. Software as a service is easy to buy. Software as a service pricing is based on monthly fee or annual fee. Software as a service allows organizations to access business functionality at a low cost, which is less than licensed applications. Unlike traditional software, which is sold as a license based with an upfront cost and often an optional ongoing support fee, software as a service providers generally pricing the applications using a subscription fee, most commonly a monthly or annually fee. Next point is less hardware required for software as a service. The software is hosted remotely, so organizations don't need to invest in additional hardware. No special software or hardware versions required. All users will have the same version of software and typically access it through the web browser. Software as a service reduces IT support cost by outsourcing hardware and software maintenance and support to the infrastructure as a service provider. Next point is low maintenance required for software as a service. Software as a service removes the necessity of installation, setup, and often daily upkeep and maintenance for the organizations. Initial setup cost for software as a service is typically less than the enterprise software. Software as a service vendors actually pricing their applications based on the some usage parameters such as number of users using the applications. So, software as a service does easy to monitor and automatic updates. Next is flexible payments. Rather than purchasing software to install or additional hardware to support it, customers subscribe to a SaaS offering, that is, software as a service offering. Generally, they pay for this service on a monthly basis using a pay as you go model. Transitioning costs to a recurring operating expense allows many businesses to exercise better and more predictable budgeting. Users can also terminate software as a service offerings at any time to stop those recurring costs. Next point is scalable usage. Cloud services like software as a service offer high vertical scalability, which gives customers the options to access more or fewer services or features on demand. Automatic updates. Rather than purchasing new software, customers can rely on a SaaS provider to automatically perform updates and patch management. That means we use simple day-to-day applications through this software as a service. For example, if I am using Google Docs, or say we have taken the example of WhatsApp. If I am using the WhatsApp, then it performs automatic updates. These automatic updates and patch management, some patch management is some of the application of that, some of the part of the application is being updated. So this provides an upgrade to that particular application, and I need not to reinstall it or reinstall, or I can say I have to take the new version of that particular application. With these updates and patch management, my application is upgraded or it is up to the mark, up to the date. This further reduces the burden on in-house IT staff. Next is accessibility and persistence. Since software as a service applications are delivered over the internet, users can access them from any internet enabled device and location. Software as a service offers a variety of advantages over traditional software licensing models because the software does not live on the licensing company's servers. There is less demand for the company to invest in new hardware. It is easy to implement, easy to update, debug, and can be less expensive or at least have lower upfront costs since users pay for software as a service as they go instead of purchasing multiple software licenses for multiple computers. Software as a service has numerous uses including tracking leads, scheduling events, managing transactions, automating sign up, auditing, and more. Disadvantages to software as a service. Drawbacks to the adoption of software as a service involve data security and speed of delivery. Because data is stored on external servers, companies have to be sure that it is safe and cannot be accessed by unauthorized parties. Slow internet connections can reduce performance, especially if the cloud servers are being accessed from far off distances. Internal networks tend to be faster than internet connections. Types of softwares that have migrated to a SaaS model are often on enterprise level services such as human resources, customer relationship management, and content management. These types of tasks are often collaborative in nature, requiring employees from various departments to share, edit, and publish material while not necessarily in the same office. Next point is security. Actually, data is stored in a cloud, so security may be an issue for some users. However, cloud computing is not more secure than in-house deployment. Next point is total dependency on internet. Without internet connection, most software as a service applications are not usable. Next point is latency issue. Because the data and application are stored in a cloud at a variable distance from the end user. So, there is a possibility that there may be more latency while interacting with the application than a local deployment. So, SaaS model is not suitable for applications whose demand response time are in milliseconds. Next point is switching between SaaS vendors is difficult. Switching SaaS vendors involves the difficult and slow task of transferring and the very large data files over the internet and then converting and importing them into another software as a service also. Next point is businesses must rely on outside vendors to provide the software, keep that software up and running, track and report accurate billing, and facilitate a secure environment for the business data. Providers that experience service disruptions imposed unwanted changes to service offerings, experience a security breach or any other issue can have a profound effect on the customer's ability to use those SaaS offerings. As a result, users understand their SaaS provider's service level agreement and make sure it is enforced. Software as a service is a software distribution model in which a third party provider hosts application and makes them available to customers over the internet. Software as a service is one of the three main categories of cloud computing alongside infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Software as a service closely related to application service provider ASP and on-demand computing software delivery models. The hosted application management model of software as a service is similar to ASP, where provider hosts the customer software and delivers it to approved end users over the internet. In the software on-demand SaaS model, the provider gives customers network-based access to a single copy of an application that provider created specifically for SaaS distribution. The application source code is the same for all customers, and when new features or functionalities are rolled out, they are rolled out to all customers. Depending upon the service level agreements, the customer's data for each model may be stored locally, in the cloud, or both locally and in the cloud. Organizations can integrate software as a service applications with other software using application programming interfaces. For example, a business can write its own software tools and use software as a service providers APIs to integrate those tools with the software as a service offerings. There are software as a service applications for fundamental business technologies such as email, sales management, customer relationship management, financial management, human resource management, billing, and collaboration. Leading SaaS providers include Salesforce, Oracle, SAP, Intuit, and Microsoft. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned to Ekeeda. Subscribe to Ekeeda.